So there's a lot of stories that come out every single week. We try to compile those and give those to you in a news topic, but sometimes we want to talk a little bit more in depth on a specific news story. It's kind of like the 60 minutes, aspect of gaming news. And I think we're about at the 60 minutes level of journalism. So I wanted to talk about Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, because if you aren't familiar with the game, this is a quasi... it's not an indie game, but it's like it's a AAA indie game, if you will. Well, it's an independent developer.
The way that Ninja Theory put it out is they said that it's a AA.
Yeah,
which is a market that kind of vanished for a while. But if this is like a lot of polish, but independent digital release.
Yes.
And so that's something that kind of went away for a while, and for this could be a way for it to come back. They said the
lower
gameplay
budget,
is
$30, not bad.
And they said that the gameplay is about 6 to 8 hours, but it's a gorgeous game, and a lot of the things that they did with it are really interesting.
Yeah.
So we wanted to talk about that.
Well, one of the I want to talk about two things. One is the permadeath discussion, and the other thing I want to talk about is a certain reviewer who once started the game. So let's talk about the permadeath. So when they first talked about Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, the idea, or they mentioned that in the game, if you die too many times,
well, this is actually something. This is actually something that pops up in the game as a warning. Like whenever you start the game, it'll put up on the screen and it'll be like, look, don't die too many times. Yeah. Her madness will consume her. We're gonna delete your save game.
Yeah.
And like the tendrils of black whatever it is are crawling up her arm, which may or may not be happening because she's not entirely right in the head.
Exactly.
And that's the thing that makes me the most excited about it.
Yeah.
But the fact that they say that in game made a lot of people go. Some of us, myself included, went, okay. I've never seen that before.
Very challenging.
Yeah, and the idea of having that kind of pressure on me to perform, to succeed in that way was really an interesting idea. But several outlets, Eurogamer and Destructoid in particular, kind of dove down into that, and they were like, okay, well then let's die a bunch of times that we can tell people. Yeah, so we can tell people, how many times do you have to die, because we're gamers, we love numbers.
Yeah. How many times do we have to die? Like, is it all on a specific level? Is it cumulative over the course of the entire game?
Right. Also,
does that the black goo stuff that's on her arm, does that increase the more times you die? Because it was kind of hinted at that was tied to that.
Yeah, and like whenever she respawns, like she'll look at her arm in a horrified fashion and everything. And neither of these teams were able to replicate it. They said they died like 50 times in a row in the same area, and it never actually deleted.
I've not seen anyone say that. I've seen people.
I haven't seen proof yet.
I've seen people who have played the game multiple times. I've seen people who said that they were horrible at the game and they still got through it.
Yeah.
Like they're not talented gamers, avid gamers, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So they died a lot in getting through it, and it didn't matter. And I think that this is a little different than the No Man's Sky false advertising. It is similar, but it is a little different. So No Man's Sky basically said, we have all these aspects of the game, and then gave you 2 or 3 of them. And this one is saying there's an aspect to the game that to almost scare you and play with the meta, play with the player, because that's the way I viewed it. Was she is going through this psychosis, she is under this pressure of things that may or may not exist, and now you are under the pressure of something that may or may not exist, being
connect you deeper to the player.
And I think that's what they were trying to go with, but the problem is that now
the internet, NeoGAF, and Reddit exist, basically.
So people who are playing it, and the way that the game could kind of get into your head and go, oh, like, my gameplay matters, what I'm doing matters, and the game knows what I'm doing. Very, very Psycho Mantis, where the game is keeping track of the player, not just the character. And I think that it could have been an interesting psychological
and I think
thing.
Okay, so this is something that has been debunked. I still think for the majority of people who play this game, it will probably be a something that does actually affect them in game.
Sure.
And so
some people aren't going to look. I mean, a lot of people aren't going to go and look up. Some people will,
Right.
but I'd say the majority of people who play the game will play it. I also think the majority of people in the game are not going to play it now. They'll play. It'll be something that slowly rolls out as people say they really liked it.
Yeah.
So you'll have someone 4, 5, 6 months from now starts to play the game, and it pops up, and they go,
oh, what?
I mean, I'll try it. I don't know how to feel about this. Or if you're my wife, you go, nope, I'm not playing this.
Yeah.
So I think that it's interesting, but I don't think it's something you can do nowadays. You
Yeah.
know, it's
and that is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But yeah. So let us know in the comments how you think this was handled.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other things I actually thought about was Spec Ops,
Mm-hmm.
because the loading screens in particular blurs the line between talking to you, the player, and talking to the character. Like some of the lines of dialogue and the loading screen little sayings are actually talking to the player. And so I feel like that this is an attempt by Ninja Theory to reach out and be like, hey, what is this thing? How do you feel about this?
Yeah.
How do you think you should feel about this?
And I think that's a cool aspect to the game. I think it's something that a lot of people are missing, that aspect of it, and I think that I'm hoping that it won't get a lot of bad publicity due to that, because it is a very good game from what I've heard. Everyone that I've heard play it have had a lot of great things to say about it, and at $30, that's not a bad price tag for that either.
Yeah.
For 8 hours of very good story, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
So Jim Sterling, who is a very big YouTube reviewer, very big independent YouTube reviewer, got the copy of the game early and played the game, and ran into a bug that I haven't heard anybody else run into yet.
Mm-hmm.
And the bug was a specific hallway, a specific cave where you have to light torches.
Yeah.
He was lighting torches. He missed a torch, continued to light torches, and it auto-saved where he couldn't go further back. He also couldn't go further forward and go further in the game
Because he hadn't lit all the
because
torches.
he hadn't lit all the torches.
Yeah.
So he rage quit the game. 1-starred it to his official review, because he's an independent reviewer, but he is a reviewer that is within Metacritic and others, and their average score dropped significantly when that happened. And I want to talk a little bit about that, but I think you have kind of similar stories where you'll play a game, and if you have a game-breaking bug, that takes you out of the game to the point where you're like, I can't personally play the game. I think that you mentioned Dragon Quest Builders.
Yeah.
You had a bug where you couldn't get past a certain point and you didn't play it anymore, right?
No, I went back to the very beginning of the game because I was really enjoying the game, and I continued and I got to that point again, and it fouled up again, and I was really frustrated with that. But I also went on and I looked at other people's review, and when I did my mini review and I was talking about this, I said, this is a thing that happened to me, and it's a real bummer because I enjoyed so much of the rest of this. It doesn't seem to be a common thing. See if this happens. Jim Sterling does not. Okay, we don't have the quantity of plays to figure out, how easy is this, how often is this going to happen, things like this.
I agree. Especially when you have to put out a review in a short amount of time. I mean, if you're given a couple days advanced copy of it, you need to play the game, or maybe let's say you're given a week. You have to play the game, write up your review, and then record the review to be released. I will give Jim this credit though. He did that, and then 2 hours later realized what he did after he released the video. 2 hours later realized, that was not right of me in regards to the game, in regards to the developers, in regards to how Metacritic feels. He retracted his review from Metacritic, which brought their score back up to where it should have been.
Right.
He was doing this at 3:00 in the morning on a Monday or Tuesday. He retracted it and said, you know what, this was out of anger. It irritated me, and I think that I respected him for doing that. I would like to, because everything else that he said about the game, he really, really liked.
Yeah.
He really enjoyed it, and he plays a lot of crappy games. So playing the full spectrum of them, he agreed that, like, you know, a $30 price tag, these graphics, he was going to give it like an 8. And for Jim, that's a pretty good score because he's very rough on games.
He's critical.
So I will say I'm glad that he retracted the score and realized, you know what, part of this is me, part of this is a bug that maybe other people haven't dealt with.
Yeah.
And he is one who, he does not forgive when a game comes out early and does not work properly. When if a game comes out launch day and you can't actually play it, then he's like, okay, that's unforgivable. But in this case, he thought, okay, well, maybe this is something specific to what I did, and so far I haven't seen other people doing it. So I will say, as much as a knee-jerk reaction that was for him to do it, I like how mature he was to say, you know, that wasn't right for me to do that.
Yeah.
So let us know in the comments what you think about Hellblade, what you think about that controversy in regards to permadeath, and what you think about Jim Sterling, and if you think that he's just a giant blob of anger. Put it in the comments because he'll laugh at that too.
And also, speaking of games that come out with bugs that may or may not get fixed, tell us what you think about Bethesda games.
Yes.
He plays them. I don't know. I don't think I... Anyway, let us know in the comments what you think.
We'll see you
We'll
later.
talk to you next week.